be starting with this day newspaper. And the assent to PIGB, operators urge Mele Kyari. New NNPC boss assumes office today. Surpass my achievement, Baru tells. Alright, that story starts from the front page and continued on page 9. Nigeria joins AFCFTA as Buhari signs agreement talking about Africa Continental Free Trade Area. LCCI hails country's membership. That is a picture of President Muhammadu Buhari signing the agreement, and under that picture says welcome on board. Alright, bottom strip stories. Army decries escalation of logistics supplies to insurgents, page 8. Okay, get the details of that story on page 8 of this day newspaper. Then below the masthead, Lawan, we will perform our oversight without fear or favor. That's on page 9. And if you look up above the masthead, move on. Clark advises PDP minority leadership crisis. That story continues on page 8. And finally, SGF. Buhari committed to lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Get the details on page 9. That is all we have from this day.
Charles, next is the Nation's newspaper, and I'll take it from the top. Above the masthead, JAMB to try exam cheats, impersonators. To try exam cheats, impersonators. That story can be found on page 8. And on page 7, Clark urges PDP not to distract House. And we come to the next page, on page 19. Nigeria Stock Exchange expels 38 stockbroking firms. Free trade must be fair, says Buhari. That story can be found on page 6. And on page 4, why I killed my girlfriend by suspect. That story can be found on page 4. And on page 11, Oyo Algon flays SIEC dissolution. Oyo Algon flays SIEC dissolution. That story can be found on page 11. And we come down below the masthead, Cup of Nations. It has these kickers. Ekong, South Africa game is like final. Madagascar defeat inspired Eagles. That is coming from Coach Ra. Bafana can win AFCON. You can find the details on pages 9, 10, 39 and page 40. And we have this picture, big picture of Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka. At the middle, President Women Arise, Director General, Office of Transport, Strategy and Development, amongst others, at a wreath laying at the late Chief MKO Abiola's Ikeja house at the weekend. And we come down to the lead story on the Nation's newspaper. Soyinka Oni to Nigerians, defend your ancestral lands. And we have this kicker from Soyinka. Monarch Soyinka laureate warns against anarchy. The story starts from the front page and it continues on page 6. And we have this picture of the Senate President Ahmed Lawal and Asiwaju Tinubu yesterday. And beside the picture, who act our roles without fear or favor. You can find the details on page 6. And finally, on the Nation's newspaper, Sanwo-Olu didn't withdraw $470 million to fund AFCON delegations. That's it on the Nation newspaper.
Okay, we go over to Nigerian Tribune. And starting from the top of the newspaper, Nigeria joins Africa Free Trade Area as Buhari signs AFCFTA agreement. Promises quick ratification. Nigeria's signing brings together all AU states, says Mohammed. That story continues on page 10. Come down below the masthead, minority leadership. Leave reps alone, Clark tells PDP, page 33. Jam to reconfirm biometrics of UDM candidates, page 9. Sister stabs brother, death in Kano over choice of music. Well, that's pathetic. That story is on page 30. Then the story, Ruga, rise, defend your ancestral lands. Only showing cartels tell Nigerians. Land Use Act. Southern and Mid-Belt leaders alleged. Find the full details on page of Nigerian Tribune. Coming down, Oyo government, ALGON, in war of words over probe, over council probe, page 39. Alleged raid of Fatoimbo, Dakolo, and others, page 7. And of course, that's a picture of President signing the Africa Free Trade Area agreement. 86 billion naira out of 2.07 trillion naira released to public universities in 4 years. That is according to investigation, pages 34 and 39. Finally, ASU insists on 200 billion naira annual intervention, says education not Buhari's priority. That is all we have from Nigerian Tribune. Okay, next is the New Telegraph newspaper, and I will take it from the top. Federal government targets 150 billion earnings from non-oil sector. Awolowo, Nigerian products no longer substandard. That story starts from the front page and it continues on page 9. And on page 2, Buhari, Nigeria will insist on fair trade with AFC, that is African Continental Free Trade Area regime. You can find the details on page 2. And we come down to the below the masthead. Edo, Obaseki, probe hospital contracts awarded by Oshomole. You can find the details on page 34. And on that same page, Bayelsa Guba will not hand over PDP to returnees. That is coming from the youths. And on page 4, 25 states benefit 13 billion naira cash transfer from Abacha loot. And we come down to the lead story on New Telegraph newspaper. Shoyinka Oni, Nigerians must defend their ancestral land. And we have this quote. We call on the Nigerian people to recognize that the internal colonization project is ever recurrent, that there are backwards, primitive, underdeveloped minds that have failed and continued to fail to overcome delusions in this antiquated belief in sectarian domination as the key to social existence. You can find the details on page 4. And we have this picture of the Lagos-Ekpe Road. It starts going. I hope it doesn't get to go. Please, let's take necessary action so that it won't be gone forever. And we come down to the bottom strip stories. Reps scramble for committees. Storm Egypt to lobby speaker. You can find the details on page 2. And finally, on the New Telegraph newspaper, cannabis used in pregnancy could cause premature birth. That story can be found on page 30. Thank you very much. Vanguard newspaper is the next paper, and I'm starting with the leading story. 30-day ultimatum to Buhari, FG on Ruga. Can South and Middle Belt leaders, others, warn Northern youths. Niger Delta agitators, others, warn Northern youths. Give Northerners counter 30-day ultimatum to leave region. Attackers get reprisal. Igbo town unions, their headsmen. Defend your ancestral land. Shoinka Oni tell Nigerians. Story is on page 4. And the big picture, of course, is the AFCFTA agreement. And that's showing the president signing the agreement together with some governors behind him. Okay, bottom strip stories. Clerk to PDP accepts House decision on minority leadership positions. Page 9. Buhari signs AFCFTA agreement, says free trade must be fair trade. Page 8. No for stable power supply yet in Nigeria, says Abuja distribution company. Is Buhari's education policy, and you find it on page 13. Right revalidation of biometric. We are flooded with applications for correction of the how page 9. Okay, let's go up above the masthead. Weak purchasing power, uncompetitive returns crash FGM bond by 50%. And as deputy DG of Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria's murdered in South Africa, and it's on page 51. Then finally, Tiv and Jukun crisis, massive security deployment needed to end crisis, says Benue and Taraba. It can be found on page 13, and that is the last story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
Thank you, Charles. Next is the Blueprint newspaper, and I'll take it from beside the masthead. Government borrows 1 trillion naira yearly to fund SMEs. That is coming from Reps, and you can find the details on page 20. Assault. NCWs rejects Abo's apology, demands UN intervention. You can find the details on page 13. And we come down below the masthead. Ruga, Land Use Act could be repealed. Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum raises fears. And it has this kicker. Coalition cautions Ohanese, Northern youths. You can find the details on page 20 and on page 32. Lagos pastor arrested for raping, impregnating 15-year-old. You can find the details on page 32. And the lead story on Blueprint newspaper, AFCFTA, Nigeria targets $150 billion from 22 non-oil products. We have these kickers. To create 500,000 jobs, trade must be free, fair. That is coming from the President, Muhammadu Buhari. UN pledges support. And this picture, we have this picture, it appears in the Vanguard and the Nigerian Tribune of the President signing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And we come down below the picture. Flood kills mobile police officer in Zamfara. You can find the details on page 16. And we come down to the bottom strip stories. Will revalidate biometrics of candidates over last 10 years. That is coming from JAMB, and you can find the details on page 8. On page 6, Nigeria can't survive another civil war. That is coming from Oni and Shoinka on page 6. And on page 9, NYSC denounces Islamization claim, says report writers' imagination. And finally, on the Blueprint newspaper, NILDS partners London Varsity. NILDS partners London's Varsity College on Africa Energy Transition. You can find the details on page 5. And that's it from here now. Newspaper review will be right back after the short break with some news making the world of sports. Please stay tuned.
Did you know Jesus said, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost"? Did you know ACNN reaches out to all African, European and Asian countries? Did you know ACNN produces programs that provides Bible-based solutions to your everyday needs? Would you consider partnering with us in order to help us reach out to more souls? Then, become a part of ACNNTV Kingdom Investment Partnership. You can be a monthly or a yearly partner. To subscribe, make your partnership payment into this Zenith Bank account. Account name, Father Communications Limited. Account number 10132532. For more details, information of your account, please call +234
Welcome back. It is time for sports pages. We have updates on AFCON, Women World Cup and the Copa America. I am with the Vanguard newspaper and on page 53. Okay, starting with a transfer news. Chelsea confirmed Morata sale to Atletico Madrid. And from there, just the story beside it. Copa America, Messi slammed for showing a lack of respect, and the pictures, one of the pictures shows Messi being shown the red card. Okay, let's come down to FIFA Women World Cup. USA champions again, win back-to-back title, and that's a picture of the USA female team celebrating their victory after winning the Netherlands. Okay, Rapinoe, FIFA's prize money boost still not fair. All right, Manchester United select Pogba for trip to Australia, and Fulham FC soccer star project to groom young talents in Nigeria. Mourinho rejects 100 million Chinese Super League offer. Fear grips Liverpool over club. Okay, why would that be? You have to find out on page 53 of Vanguard newspaper. Diego Costa linked with a move to Everton. Alright, and I move to page 54. AFCON stories. Heartbreak for Salah and Egypt. Of course, they crashed out from the AFCON, which they are hosting. Yes. Okay, if you look at the pictures, you see the sad faces and disappointed faces of the fans of the Egyptian national team. Okay, Omero Awazim tested for dope after the match against the Lions of Cameroon. The two defenders didn't go back with the rest of the team because they got tested for doping. It's alright. Egypt sack head coach and FA president resigns after shock defeat. Mikel fit to face Bafana. That looks like a good news.
I thought they said he won't feature next rest of the games.
It said may not. Yes. But now his feet is already training. Okay. We don't care about South Africa, says Igalo. Okay, Igalo was mentally too strong for us, says Clarence Seedorf, talking about the Cameroonian coach. Why I introduced Chukwueze late against Cameroon, says Coach Roa, obviously responding to calls of Nigerians on why he's not featuring the youngster regularly. Okay, NFF hails dignitaries who cheered the picture of NFF president with Gbajabiamila, Sanwo-Olu, and Emefiele. Yes, they took picture together when they went to cheer the Eagles to victory. And on page 55 now, Seedorf's future uncertain after Eagles chased Lions out of Egypt. Coming down, Cameroon coach tips Eagles to play in the final. Anything is possible for Eagles. We over Cameroon. On this page, the last winning box up to $3,000. This fixed in the African by PM Nigerian 8 p.m. Nigerian time. That is all we have in the sports pages.
Wrap up the edition of News Review. Thank you for gracing us.
You are watching the Anglican Cable Network Nigeria. ACNN, reaching the world with the undiluted Word of God.